The Gophers, they lose another heartbreaker, this time to Illinois, 27-26. I got Ron Johnson and Kane Rob with me to break it all down, and it's coming up next on today's Locked On Gophers Postcast.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Golden Gophers Postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. Joining me, as always, we got Kane Rob, host of Locked On Gophers Podcast. He's on X, at Gophers Kane Rob. And then, of course, we got the legend, Gophers Hall of Famer Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show each and every week. Follow him on X if you haven't already. It's at 3 Ron Johnson. Fellas, lots to discuss, lots to break down in this one as the Gophers lose to Illinois. They dropped to 5-4. But before we jump into it, a quick reminder, this episode is brought to us by Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time, the best place to buy tickets. All right, here's what was on the line heading in. Gophers kind of heating up, right? Winners of their last two. PJ Fleck was looking for his 50th win as Gophers head coach. Meanwhile, Brett Bielema, undefeated versus this team with a perfect 9-0 record coming in, looking for his 10th. But Ron, what a game. If you're like a neutral fan of just the game of football, you sat down, no skin in the game in this one, and just watch this one. It was a lot of back and forth for both teams. Both teams made a lot of big plays throughout this one. Let's just start with your biggest takeaways, though, as you sat and watched the Gophers with the lead, 1 minute left. They let Illinois drive the length of the field for the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to hear a lot of cliche stuff about, like, it's a team game and not one play made the game and blah, 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 blah. That is very true, but Daniel Jackson made the play to put them ahead. Ethan Caligman made the throw to put them ahead. So do they get the credit? Yes. Tyler Nubin made the interception we thought sealed the game, put it away. But then what happened? Ethan Caligman can't make a throw to a tight end 7 yards away from him to seal the game and get another first down. Tyler Nubin, and again, we have to look at the whole way the coverage was set, but, you know, in that cover two, he's only playing what the coaches tell him to. They play cover two the entire stretch. At some point, maybe go 4 and allow him to roam in the back, or maybe just go umbrella and say, let's make them throw in front of us and let's tackle them. They have no timeouts. Like, they have no timeouts. Why keep trying to figure out how to rush this guy? Like, rush 3, put 8 in coverage. But my takeaway is, yeah, not one play lost his game, but you can look at the plays that you said if you make those, you win the game. And I think that's the biggest problem. Other than that, Brett Bielema owns Minnesota. Like, he's 10-0 versus Minnesota. And this is not one coach. So this is not PJ Fleck. This is not just Jerry Kill, Tracy Claeys, or Tim Brewster. Like, he's owned Minnesota 10-0. And so even that, it's like, at some point, like, again, the 2-point conversion play, and I'm not going to go too long about all that, but there's a lot to this game. But my main takeaway is, yeah, it is a team game. Not one play lost the game, but one play could have won the game or closed it out towards the end. And you've got to be willing to make that play, and it wasn't made.
Yeah, and Kane, same kind of question to start. I mean, they dug themselves in that early hole, fumbling on the opening kickoff. They've struggled a lot early on with the opening drives throughout the entire year, but they fought their way back. They even won the turnover battle by the end, 2-1. In the end, though, the defense, again, despite making so many big plays, just couldn't tighten the screws and clamp down when they needed to make a stop.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to adjustments were made too late. You talk about this Illinois team started 7 for 7 on third downs. That's going to hurt you every time if you can't get off the field. And then, like Ron just said, in that last drive, they were in cover 2 the entire time and didn't adjust. It's like they took too long, and those too longs ended up turning into a loss that looked like a win. I think we all three of us thought this game was a win. We were ready to talk about it, ready to celebrate. And then the final 2 minutes, you let the backup quarterback drive 85 yards and throw a touchdown to their number one receiver, the second leading receiver in the Big Ten when it comes to yardage. And somehow he beats us up the middle in cover 2 for a touchdown.
Yeah, hard not to get the same vibes from the Northwestern game when they blew that massive 21-point lead. Now, obviously, not the same situation, not the same game, but when we look back at the end of the season, these two games right here, those are the ones that are going to hurt the most, without a doubt. 2 games you should have won that ultimately turned from wins into losses. And Ron, I'd say the A topic coming in just minutes before kickoff was, Wisconsin and Michigan State losing, which meant, okay, a win today, the Gophers would be all alone atop the Big Ten West Division. As a former player, is that something you kind of take notice to and pay attention to in a situation like that? Or is it just put your head down, take care of business? Like, does that amp you up a little bit more, finding news like that right before kickoff? And I guess, how much does this loss hurt the kind of psyche and momentum of this team now?
No, you don't need anything to amp you up. Like, you're a football player. You do this for a living. Like, you are going to school for free to play football. You shouldn't need anything. The reason I say that is because teams that are 1-5, 1-4, still show up and find ways to win games. Illinois showing up to Minnesota. Everybody thought they were a dead dog at 3-5. So it doesn't matter what the record is. It doesn't matter what you're playing for. Every game you should be playing to win, regardless of what the situation is. Now, do you come out knowing, if we win this game, we're atop the Big Ten? Do you hear the chatter because you see players posting stuff before kickoff? So they have their phones on them during warmups. That's the new thing now, headphones and cell phones. And so players they're not allowed to like post stuff, but they're definitely looking at their phones, even though they're maybe just switching the music. That's kind of stuff is being paid attention to. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter. Like, I don't care if everybody won. What you want is for it to come down to the wire, and you keep winning, they keep winning, and then you face them. Everybody praying for people to lose and all that other stuff. And that's the thing. Wisconsin did lose. And that's what's so frustrating about this. Minnesota wins, Wisconsin loses, Iowa wins. Minnesota already beat Iowa. So now your fate is just keep winning the next one. And now it's just another one of those feels like mediocre situations where it's like, oh, okay, they're going to get a bowl game. But like when is that moment going to happen? Because again, the players are just doing what the coaches put them in. And then the players sometimes aren't making the plays that coaches call. So it goes hand in hand. Like, some people are like, oh, we got to call for the coach's job, or we got to do like, it's both. Like, you got to look at both sides of it. And until both click, and that's what happens. Like, Ohio State, it clicks. Michigan, it clicks. Georgia, it clicks. And I think that's what's missing, is like that both sides to really go. And some of these throws, whether, Ethan is nervous or, steps wrong, or just, mentally is just not thinking through, or just his body just, lets him down. We all know as athletes it happens. And I know that I've been there, so I can't be too hard on them. But at the end of the day, it's like, sometimes you just want that play to be made. And it's like, you got to make that play. Even the 4-minute offense is like, what is the situation here? Where is the sense of urgency? Why? Like, you should feel like Illinois is going to shut down. And at no point did Illinois ever feel like they gave up. Even after a fumble, I'm like, that fumble, if the Gophers recover, that is over there. And then, that doesn't happen. And then you bring in a backup who I didn't even realize was a backup until the second pass. And I'm like, oh, we got this. Now it's the backup. And then he carves them up. And that's like Minnesota sports. Sometimes I feel like it's always like, oh, the backup's done. The backup's in. We got this. And then the backup comes in and just lights them up. When you look at the Vikings too, that's happened with Cooper Rush and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's very frustrating. It sucks two sides of it. As a media member, I just have to be unbiased and report it. As a former player, it hurts because I've been there and I know what these players are going through. But at the same time, it's like, golly, like, come on, like just make the play or just make the call. Like and I go back to that 2-point conversion. That can't be the best play call. Like, that can't be. There's no way you think Elijah Spencer throwing the ball to Ethan Callick, man, this is your best option when you have Daniel Jackson, Brevin Spanford, Jordan Newbin, all on the offense. Like, and then the last play of the game, nothing against Chris Altman-Bell, but he hasn't been 100%. So why is the last play of the game not going to Daniel Jackson? Even that to me was really like I don't know what the coverage was, or were they expecting everybody to run after Daniel Jackson, but he's got to be involved in the last play of the game.
Yeah, this one's tough for me and a lot of fans. I can't imagine for a guy like yourself, Ron, who's put blood, sweat, and tears into this program. Kane, I'll let you respond and give your 2 cents on this kind of missed opportunity because, again, Gophers know they got a chance to sit atop this division all by their lonesome with 3 games to play. I know that makes it sting a little bit more, doesn't it, with a huge missed opportunity today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you have the tiebreaker against Iowa, and then you see Wisconsin lose, you see Nebraska lose, who were both kind of in that conversation. The Gophers had the clear opportunity, and it feels like we've been saying that at one point in the season for the last 3 seasons, but somehow, some way, we always find the way to fumble that opportunity. And so today it definitely hurts. I'm curious. The first half, it was great to see how the offense was going. It seemed like there was a balanced approach to the attack. The running game was going. The passing game was going. We got Brevin Spanford involved in the open field so he could create a little bit. His confidence seemed like it was lifting. And then in the second half, it felt like we didn't have that same approach on the offense. It seemed like we were kind of playing a little bit more conservative, not as conservative as we've seen this team play. But I don't know. It's just like a tale of 2 halves again. And this one wasn't even the full 2 halves. It was more so just that final 2 minutes because we had huge moments. It looked like we won this game. It looked like it was in hand. Tyler Nubin gets his career tying record in interceptions, and it feels like it's a lock. And then all of a sudden, somehow, some way, something goes wrong. Minnesota sports at its finest, but we can't always use that as the excuse. We have to capitalize when the opportunities are there.
If these games were 58 minutes instead of 60, Gophers are 7-2 right now, right? We're popping champagne. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the nuances here because, Ron, I got to say, there were times throughout this game I thought to myself, this is the most impressive. The offense, the passing game has looked at times this year. The way they responded, right? Digging themselves out of leads throughout the game. Callie McManus putting his marching boots on a few times, getting them back into the game every time they fell behind. And the defense, again, the defense made a lot of big plays, a lot of big splash plays throughout the game as well. So end of the day, who's this loss on? Offense, defense, coaching, or is it not that simple? Like
it's not that simple.
If you're Coach Fleck, I guess, let me ask you this then. If you're Coach Fleck, what am I preaching or working on the most this week? What's the message now after such a deflating loss?
Finish the game. Like they were right there. And that's the thing. Like it's got to be that. And then it's not just, it's everybody, like everybody's involved in the wins. Everybody's involved in the losses. Like it's a team game. It's a coaching group. But if I'm PJ Fleck, I'm going to my coaching staff and just asking about what could you have done better? Like what, if you had to redo the last drive over for the defense, what would we do differently? If I'm the offense and I have a chance in that 2-point conversion, what might I do differently? Now, again, if Elijah Spencer comes around the corner and actually just throws the ball, like realizing it's a freaking 2-point conversion. So even if it gets picked off, who cares? And throws it at Ethan Callie-McManus' body maybe a little bit more and lower. If it gets knocked down, who cares? It doesn't have to, if it gets picked off, who cares? And so if he makes that throw, then it's like, oh, okay, well, look at this. Like he got it. I even wonder why he didn't just try to run the ball. Like after you got around the corner, you realize there was a lane. Like just go put your head down and go get 3 yards. But if I'm PJ, I'm asking both sets of coaches, like what could we have done better on the last play? Because it's all about finish. You finish that 2-point conversion. Maybe we're in overtime right now. Actually, no, because they probably would have kicked the field goal instead of going for 2. Mm-hmm. But when you think about that, just going for it in that moment, what ends up happening? What ends up going, through your mind through the whole process? What do you need to have done to get to where we need to, which is 2 points, and we also just need to stop. Also, the 4-minute offense. What could we have done in the 4-minute offense to actually convert and get some yards, like hitches, slants? Like, can we get some basic stuff in this to just really like force Illinois to play our game, get them out the box? Because just running the ball, it's too predictable. So, a little bit of that, like how do we get out of that predictable, they know what we're going to do status? Because that's where they're at.
Yeah, and Kane, Ron's probably right. Like, it's not as easy as just, it's the offense or the defense or what have you. But if I made you pick one, which phase are you putting a loss on? Because both sides of the ball, again, did have their moments in this one. But if you look at the comments section right now, props if you're joining us right now live, by the way, appreciate all the love and comments and tuning in. But of the 30 comments, 29 of them look like they want PJ Fleck's head right now.
I mean, if I had to pick one, and I don't want to pick one, but if I had to, I would say it was on coaching, but mainly because the adjustments took too long. Like I said, When they start 7 for 7 on third downs, their first 2 touchdowns came on third down and goal. Like, we have to be able to adjust and take that stuff away earlier. Again, when their backup quarterback comes in, we took a timeout when they were on their final play before they got that scoring of the touchdown. But it's like, why don't we call the timeout after they had gone 2 plays and they're moving the ball and they're running a speed hurry up offense? And clearly we did not have the personnel package we wanted in there because Nate Becker was our defensive end in that play. That's not a guy you usually see on the field for the Gophers. So I think overall you have to adjust quicker than what we're seeing. And the Gophers in the middle of the game, the second quarter, the third quarter, they made good adjustments. They always come out of halftime with great adjustments, but it took too long in the key possessions, especially on that defensive side of the ball, and we ended up paying for it in the end.
All right. Well said by both of you. I want to ask you guys a little bit more about Callie McManus and just where this team goes from here. But first, I got a quick word from our sponsors over at Game Time. Quick reminder, this episode is brought to you by Game Time because you should never have to worry when buying tickets to any big event. That's why Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets to any local event like concerts, comedy shows, sporting events, and even Broadway theater. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Personally, for me, I love that view from the seat feature they offer so I can get a real look, an accurate visual on where my seats are going to be so I know exactly what to expect before spending all that money. And with their all-in prices, Game Time shows you exactly how much you're spending with no hidden fees. It's time to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and see how easy it is for yourself. Just create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, just create any new account and redeem your code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. It's Game Time. Terms apply. All right, Ron, it's that time of the show.
Yep.
I want your honest, deep dive assessment on Ethan Callie McManus. I ask you every week. I don't know why I'd stop now. And I know a lot doesn't necessarily change, right, from game to game, week to week. But, you know, today the stats weren't bad. I just want to know, though, from your opinion, from what you've seen, is this guy the future quarterback, the long-term answer for the Golden Gophers?
I mean, yeah, you have to see when you see the throws. That's the thing. Like, he's made the throws, he's made the big plays. When you see those, you're like, yeah, but it's like, where's the consistency? Like, there were big moments, but 11 for 22, so 50%, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he didn't turn the ball over, 0 interceptions on his part. So that part of it is like, well, can he double that? If they were to give him 44 throws, does he go 22 for 44? Does he get better? Are they giving him easy throws? Or is everything kind of a boom or bust sometimes, or it's a deep over? It's never just like a quick bubble screen or a quick hitch. When you think about Illinois, Michigan State, the teams, Ohio State, the teams that just run some of the basic routes, I always wonder that is like, why have so many coaches gone away from how the game started, hitches and slants? Because at the end of the day, the coverages are the same. If they're playing off, give me the hitch. I'm going to take the hitch. I'm going to take 5 yards. Maybe my receiver gives me 8. So in that respect, yes, I think Ethan is the answer. I think he is the guy. He just has to be more consistent. Like, he's even said that himself. You look at the Iowa game, you look at some of the other games. There are definitely throws that I know he's going to watch that tight end throw. And PJ Fleck said this to us on the PJ Fleck show. Because I asked him that very question. I said, when Ethan Callie McManus leaves these games, what is your thought process on him? You know, can he be consistent? Does he have an opportunity to get better and be consistent? And PJ Fleck said, if he were to be a guy that would be like, oh man, I had a great game. I guess I can get better. I don't see what you guys see. He would be concerned, but he's the guy that when they say like, what do you think? Or what is your thought on this? He's the first one to kind of say, yeah, like, yep, I didn't step, or I didn't turn my shoulder, or yep, I threw it into the ground. You know, my finish wasn't at the receiver. It was, over here. My eyes were worried about this and not looking at the route. Like, he's kind of aware of his mistakes. And I think that's the key, is that a guy that's aware of his mistakes is willing to fix them. A guy that is not aware of his mistakes does not care to fix them. And so Ethan Callie McManus is willing to fix his mistakes. He wants to get better. You see the running ability. He has it. He just has to get a little bit more twitchy. And that's going to come with a little bit more workout, a little bit more size, strength, maturity. He's going to mature within his offense. This is his first year being a starter. So there's a lot to this, that every single situation he's going through is for the first time. And then he's gonna grow from there. And that's the other key. It's tough to think like, because we had a consistent Tanner Morgan, and now you're dealing with the kid that's up and down. He's like the stock market, and you gotta just ride it right now and say, I'm gonna buy low but we bought in when he wasn't even playing, and now we're gonna see what we can sell it at.
Yeah, well said. A lot of good points there. And Kane, how about you? I mean, for me, again, I was just impressed the way he battled back and drove this offense down the field a couple times early in this game and responded when they were in a big hole. What'd you see from him today? And I guess, is he showing you the development, the progression you'd like to see game to game from a young quarterback now that we've seen him start, all 15 games now in his career?
Right. I definitely see the progression happening now. I've been trying to talk to fans on Locked On Golden Gophers over these last few weeks, saying a lot of people came in with the expectation, like, he threw for 300 yards against Wisconsin, he's going to do that every game this next season. And that was the wrong mindset. But we've seen him, especially since the bye week, grow week to week to week, and not just in the plays and the throws and whatnot, but the decisions. There were times where there isn't something open and he eats it and he runs for 2 or 3 yards, as opposed to taking a sack or throwing a bad forced ball where we've seen that before and it gets picked off. He's making smarter decisions to keep the ball. He's getting the ball out in better situations. Now there's still growth that needs to happen. The consistency, like we said, on that play to Nick Callerup on the 4-minute drive, it was 3rd down. I think he got a little excited. He saw how open it was and he threw it too high. It skied on him and we ended up going 3 and out on that drive. Those are the ones where he has to hit it. He has to keep that poised. And I think as a younger quarterback, sometimes he's like, oh, it's there. Then he gets a little excited. And that's where things can sky or maybe come out a little bit too hard and it hits the receivers too hard. But you got to think there were also some drops in this game that were costly for the Gophers. And then also, I don't think enough fans have recognized that Johnny Newton made a huge impact when he came in that second quarter. Second half. For real, his first drive that he was back on the field, he has a tackle for loss and a sack after they turned it over and we had a red zone opportunity right away. The timing with the offensive line that they were giving Ethan was a lot shorter in the second half than it was in the first half, and you could feel his presence there, but the Gophers have to find ways to keep him calm. I like what Ron said, especially about the hitches and getting some of the easier throws going again, and why are we always going away from that and having these longer developing plays at all times. I think we saw some of the open field passes in that first half where we let our receivers and our tight ends create, and that just helps this offense start to flow and juice and gel. So hopefully we can take that and add it moving forward, but I do think that Ethan still has a ton of promise as a quarterback for this team.
Yeah, well said. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, Doogie, a.k.a. Darren Wolfson, KSTP, tweeted out this morning that the Vikings, Lions, Raiders, Texans, Falcons, Bills, and Jags all had team scouts in person for today's game to watch some potential NFL prospects. Obviously, Tyler Nubin being one of them. Like you just called out, Kane, all those mock drafts out there, they got Illinois nose tackle Johnny Newton as the #1 defensive tackle in the country right now. He's as close to a lock first rounder as you can get. But Ron, when you hear all those teams that showed up to watch this game, who else on either side, I guess, but probably Gophers more so, do you think has the goods to hear their name called next April? Because you played in the NFL, so you know professional talent when you see it better than most guys. So who looks the part as a potential NFL draft pick on these rosters?
I mean, early on, it's just going to be Tyler Nubin right now. I think as they break down the rest of this film, I mean, I think Brevin Spanford has the body type, but I think a little bit this season was a regression for him. And so people are going to like coming in as an All-American and a Mackey Award winner or whatever candidate, blah, blah. Like, I think people were expecting to see more. And today you saw a glimpse of what you should have saw the entire season. And so that's what I think scouts are going to always wonder, like, how consistent can he be? 6'7", 270 pounds. I think he has the frame of I know he has the frame of an NFL tight end. He can pass, catch, and block. He's super strong. He's athletic, can jump. So it's always concerned me because I've asked this question to the coaches and they said it's up to Brevin. I just wonder how much of it is Brevin and how much of it is play calling and play creating is when they're creating these plays, how much of it goes to like tell Ethan, hey, this is the guy we want to go to on this play X, Y, and Z. But then, is Brevin not doing what we know needs to be considered, a top tight end in practice or in games for Ethan to feel like he can go to him every play? But right now, those are the names that jump out there. I think Ariante Ursary, I don't know, where he would fall or where he would fall as far as offensive lineman, need, but, I think Callahan has proven that he can put offensive linemen in the NFL. Nathan Bowe, we don't know about that one. Quentin Carroll probably comes back. And then you look at some of the younger guys like a Daniel Jackson. I think that's definitely a guy that can hear his name called. So, I look at like that group there, even like Justin Wiley, when you think about Terrell Smith and his impact with the Bears, you look at Antoine Winfield and what these defensive backs have done over time. I think Justin Wiley's another one.
Yeah, and as a draft nerd, I will say what Brevin Spanford does have going for him this year in this class is last year's class, the rookies that we're watching now in the NFL, was arguably the best tight end class we've seen in a decade. Dalton Kincaid, Luke Musgrave, Sam Laporta, goes on and on. This year, it seems a little depleted, and from the mock drafts and early research I've done, you still see Brevin Spanford, even as underwhelming as maybe he has been this year, still as that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th kind of tight end. I could still see him getting drafted on day 3 somewhere, pending the combine and the pro day and all that. But same question, just real quick, 30 seconds, Kane, same question. Gophers, whether or not they declare for the draft is kind of remains to be seen, but whether they end up actually getting drafted or maybe just wind up on a roster as an undrafted free agent, kind of like Mo Ibrahim this past year as well. Who do you got kind of scouted or circled on the roster as it stands today?
For sure. I mean, I'm going to give some love to my guy, Brev, for sure. I think that his blocking is going to intrigue teams because, you look at some of the blocking that guys like Kittle and whatnot do, and that'll intrigue teams. But there's always a coach out there that thinks, I see the measurables and I can make this happen. But then you look at these last 2 games, 43 yards on some big grabs, 58 yards and a touchdown today. If he keeps that trend, he could finish off with some nice stats, and I think that could help recoup some of that draft capital as you move forward. But one person that I absolutely think, maybe not this upcoming draft, but moving forward, that absolutely jumped out today again was Cody Lindenberg. I mean, that forced fumble and the timing of it was huge. I believe he led the team in tackles. He flies around the field. He's fast. He's communicating with that entire defensive unit and the energy he brings. I mean, you can see his impact whether he's in the play or not. I think he's definitely going to be on the radar for some of these guys. And someone future that continues to get looks when the scouts come to the fall camp and things like that, Anthony Smith. And he had that huge sack forced fumble that if the Gophers recover right there at the end of the game, this thing's done. But unfortunately, an offensive lineman fell on top of it. But he's been getting more and more play time throughout this season, more and more snaps. And it feels like he's always starting to deliver more and more. I called on the show this week him as my sleeper player, and I said he's getting a sack. I feel vindicated by that. And I think that he's going to continue to grow. And next year could be a huge year for him as a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah, well done calling him out. And yeah, what a game, what a performance. His stock's certainly shooting up. All right, I got 2 quick ones before we close, but first, a quick word from Prize Picks. Today's postcast brought to us by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is without a doubt the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy because you can win up to 25 times your money this football season. And why I love it is because it's so easy to play. All you got to do is select 2 or more players and pick either more or less than their projected stats on that given night. I have the app. I use it every week. And trust me when I say it's so easy to use. This week, I took Van Jefferson over 2.5 catches. Drake London's out for the Falcons tomorrow. And I took Jaron Hall over 12.5 rushing yards because I think he's going to be doing a lot of scrambling tomorrow. Another reason why I love Prize Picks is because they offer the flex or the power play. Flex play means you still win if one of your pick misses. So essentially, it's insurance on your bet. I love that. Power play gets you higher payouts, but you have to hit all your picks. That's just one of 100 reasons why I love Prize Picks, and I think it's the funnest way to play daily fantasy. Plus, Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. And with Prize Picks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. That means in any matchup, let's say one of your players gets hurt in the first half and doesn't return, that pick gets rebooted on your bet slip. And that makes Prize Picks the only daily fantasy platform around that offers you injury insurance to give you that extra peace of mind. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege at prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege for 100% bonus deposit match up to $100. Okay, Ron, 2 quick ones to close. 9 games in the book, just 3 to play. Gophers sitting at 5-4. Purdue on the road coming up next. Purdue, they've kind of struggled a little bit this season as well. Then you finish at Ohio State, and then Wisconsin at home for the Yak. So when you look at the remaining schedule, how they've played these last few weeks since the bye, how do you feel about this final stretch, and just how far can they go?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like, after a loss like this, you just don't. And this is a team. This is what's going to happen, honestly. This is what I feel like. This is a team, 9 games in, 3 games left, that will beat Purdue. They'll beat Wisconsin. And they'll probably play Ohio State close early like most teams do and lose to Ohio State. But we'll look back on that, what is that, 7-5, and say this is a team that should easily be 9-3. At 7-5, this is a team that easily should be 9-3. 9-3 heading into the Big Ten championship to face the winner of Michigan and Ohio State. And so that's what this team does. Like, it loses games like this, and then it lost to Northwestern, and then eventually turned around and beat Iowa. And everybody's like, wait, why didn't we just beat Northwestern? Like, it's the consistency. And PJ Fleck, at the press conference, he said he got to the podium. For those that haven't seen it, it'll be on Twitter, but he got to the podium and said, it's on me. This is on me. And so for him to own it on the podium, a lot of people's thoughts are he has to make some serious decisions about this coaching staff. When you think about who's the play caller, who's going to be this, who's going to be that, like, when were you your best? Who has the best interest at hand for this offense? What is the going forward steps? Because you can't continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expect a different result. That's the definition of insanity, and that's kind of my thought. But down the stretch, I feel like this is a team that can do that. Like, they could lose to Purdue, they could beat Purdue. They could beat Ohio State, probably won't. They could beat Wisconsin, or they could lose to Wisconsin. Like, this team could end up losing the next 3 and be 5-7. I mean, literally, and not go to a ball, and then we're really gonna be pissed off. So there's so many layers to this team. That you see them win games, and then you see them turn around. You see an Iowa game today versus Northwestern that neither quarterback threw for over 100 yards. Neither. 60 whatever and 80-something yards. Both quarterbacks. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. And we took Iowa down to the wire. Why? Really good defenses. Iowa has a good defense. But the Gophers' defense today, you can't tell me Illinois' offense is that good, because they're not. You can't tell me their defense is that good, because they're not. And so that's what's really frustrating about this team, because one of my keys today was looking at Illinois' third down defense. They are the worst in the Big Ten. I said if the Gophers can match their level, which they've given up almost 47% on third down conversions, the Gophers have matched it and actually tried to convert, they'd have had a chance. Today, 3. They converted 3 third downs today to the worst third down defense in the Big Ten. In the Big freaking 10, they are the worst third down defense at 47%, and they converted 3. That's problematic. And that to me has to be looked into.
Yeah, well said, Ron. A lot of great points there. I can't wait to hear you break it more down on the Ron Johnson Show this week. Kane, I want to close with this because the 2024 schedule was released. Let me just rapid fire just some of the biggest games on here. You open Thursday, August 29th versus North Carolina for the second year in a row, this time with no Drake May, though. He's going to be a top 3 pick. Week 4, it's Iowa at home for Floyd. Very next week, back to Ann Arbor for Michigan. Week 6, USC at home. No Caleb Williams, though, number 1 overall pick, most likely. Week 7, it's at UCLA, who's been actually super solid this year. Then there's a nice little stretch that I found for my money with Maryland, Illinois, and Rutgers before you finish the year. Penn State at home, then at Wisconsin. What was just your knee-jerk reaction when you saw the 2024 schedule coming out this week?
Well, first off, is it a nice little stretch? Because we can't
seem to
beat Illinois anymore.
So,
I mean, but when I looked at it, it looks concerning when you first look at it, but then you take into account that a lot of our key players have been pretty young for this team. So hopefully you have a lot of returners next season. But then on top of that, you talked about a lot of change happening. Maryland is losing their quarterback they've had for the last 3-4 years. Drake May, like you said in that opening game, won't be there. He'll likely be in the NFL. Who knows what's behind him at this point. USC can't stop a nosebleed on defense right now, so I'm not sure what those look like. Now, some of those teams are still going to be adjusting to the life in the Big Ten. If you don't have defense in the Big Ten, it's going to be hard to keep up and play, like plain and simple. So I'm curious to see how the adjustments go. I'm not saying those are auto wins, but I think there's a lot up in the air. And you talk about the Michigan game. We saw what happened against Michigan this year, but also what's going to happen with Michigan? Is Harbaugh going to still be there? Is he going to be suspended? Are there going to be sanctions? Who knows what's going on with Michigan at this point in time too? So the only game that I look at and I'm like, man, they have a ton of a young core. They've been winning games. They have a young quarterback and a young defense. Penn State is the biggest game on that schedule that I'm like, man, that's going to be a super tough game. But overall, I think that depending on what comes back with this core, depending on what happens with play calling or coaching changes or whatever, like you can't write the Gophers off, but there are going to be changes that need to be made and progress that needs to be made from these younger players stepping into the next season.
Yeah, well said. And great stuff as always. Big shout out to everyone who joined us in the chat. Much love for all the views and comments all show long. Gophers get punched in the gut by the Fighting Illini, 27-26. They moved to 5-4 on the season. Rest assured, we'll be breaking it all down all week right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota channel, so you can make sure to like and subscribe. You can stay up to date with all of it. Kane Rob, Locked On Gophers host, check out his deep dive and full reaction to the game coming out in the next few days, I'm sure. Ron Johnson, of course, Gophers legend and Hall of Famer. Check him out on the Ron Johnson Show each and every week. Gophers square up against Purdue next Saturday on the road in another 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time showdown. For Kane Rob, Ron Johnson, I'm Luke Inman. Rode the boat, Sky Yuma. Catch us same time, same place next week. Until then, though, signing out.